explain decisions they regret or what have you. But in the main, what the video demonstrates is a form of exposure therapy, dressed up with unnecessary jargon and additional steps to make it seem like an original invention. The idea is that an unpleasant memory can only be so unpleasant for so long a stretch of time before the emotional impact of it begins to diminish, at least for the time being. So in order to sit you down and have you recall an unpleasant incident, but always an unpleasant incident
that you feel you can comfortably face.
Not something so unpleasant it might actually make you a wreck. They don't want you running away. So you talk through this memory that's been bothering you once, then again recalling any details you might have left out, then again, and again, and again, and again, until you basically don't have the emotional energy to even care about it anymore. Put like that, it sounds rather mundane, which it is, but from your perspective in the moment, something that's been bothering you has all of a sudden been rendered totally insignificant. You feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and you start to think that maybe these people might be onto something. Over time, once the repetition-induced numbness has worn off, the memory might start to bother you again. But that's just a sign you're not truly clear yet, and need more auditing. It might sound like a scam to your friends and family, but you know the technology works, because you experienced it yourself. And at this point, basically they've got you. So the next thing they need to worry about is retention. Like any cult, or even mainstream religion for that matter, Scientology has some turnover, with members periodically becoming disillusioned one way or another before leaving the flock. One of the most effective ways to curtail a cult's exit rate is to manage the pace of indoctrination, introducing recruits to some of the group's more colourful teachings, only after a period of time where they're deemed to be sufficiently invested to accept said teachings. Put another way, save the really crazy shit for later.
Bruce, what is OT3?
It's basically a type of exorcism. You are removing from your body or attached to you in some way spiritual beings that are stuck there. And they're stuck there because of an incident that happened 75 million years ago.
There was a place that looked like Earth, and these people were packaged up by this crazy galactic leader, Xenu.
Boxed them up in boxes, threw them into space planes, and they took these people and they dumped them, and then they set off hydrogen bombs on the top of each primary volcano.
And that those people that were blown up are now what composes and makes up our bodies, right?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But we all did it.
Leah Remini isn't the only former Scientologist to cite the revelations of OT Level 3 and the intergalactic warlord Xenu as a turning point in the way they viewed Scientology overall, so it makes sense the church keeps such things close to their chest. It's been claimed as little as 5% of church members even reach OT Level 3, and those that do make it are taught that premature exposure to the information can cause some to be inflicted with illnesses such as pneumonia and even cancer. As evidenced by people like Remini, even keeping the material that guarded isn't enough to eliminate incertitude. But that's only half the point behind why cults often withhold their most extreme tenets from the attention of members until much later down the line after they sign up. The other vital benefit of this approach is that by the time a member reaches OT Level 3, they will be invested in the church in ways that transcend belief in its teachings. Cults have a way of slowly encouraging more and more isolation from influences outside of them. Over a period of years, if you've gradually built more or less your entire social circle around the church, perhaps met an intimate partner through it, and even raised children in it, well, they could sit you in a room and tell you your great-grandma was Xenu, and you'd have a lot of reason to go along with it. To not would be to leave the church, which would effectively be to throw away your entire life. Beyond material consequences, when a person has been emotionally invested in a cult for long enough, a profound sunk cost fallacy is liable to be instilled in their psyche. The idea that one really invested years, sometimes even decades of their life, into what is essentially no more than a regimen of watered-down talk therapy, with a top-secret piece of mediocre sci-fi behind it, is just too bitter of a pill for many to swallow. And once someone is far enough down the rabbit hole of a cult, they can reach a point of no turning back where the follow-through on their bizarre beliefs is both confounding and grave.
Hello? Yes, I need to report an anonymous tip. Who do I talk to? Okay. This is regarding what? This is regarding a mass suicide, and I can give you the address.
On March 26, 1997, a shockwave went through international media upon the discovery of 39 bodies in a mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. The deceased were all found to have downed a lethal cocktail of phenobarbital and vodka, along with a serving of chocolate pudding. A few chose applesauce instead. Working in teams over the course of 3 days, one group would take the poisonous solution, fasten a plastic bag over their head in order to suffocate, and lie down in their assigned bunk bed. Their associates would then see to it that a purple cloth was draped over their face and torso for privacy. The final 2 of the 39 being denied that dignity for obvious reasons. The event was reported in the media as being a mass suicide, a characterization accepted by roughly 99.999% of people, but to the adherents of the teachings of Heaven's Gate is just one more misrepresentation of what they have come to know as reality. It is the belief of those people that while the human bodies found in that mansion may have died, this was just a necessary step to facilitate the transportation of the spirits held within to a spaceship trailing the comet Hale-Bopp that had that year become visible to the naked eye from planet Earth, an event they took as a sign that it was finally time for their departure to what they referred to as the evolutionary level above human, in the literal heavens. The voluntary killing of their physical bodies was therefore no more a suicide than the booking of a plane ticket. What figure could be so well spoken and charismatic to convince dozens of people of such a proposition? This guy.
We can't enter that kingdom and no one can enter that kingdom by trying to live a good life in this world, and then when this world's life takes your body, then that's when you enter. The only time that kingdom can be entered is when there's a member of that kingdom, member or members of that kingdom, who have come into the human kingdom, incarnated as we have, and offer you clarification of that information, and then help you get your mind into your body, so that when the time comes to leave, then we help you also get out of your human body so that you might enter a body of the next evolutionary kingdom.
His name is Marshall Applewhite, though his followers know him as Dodd, and maintain he has visited planet Earth on several occasions prior to the 20th century as a representative of the evolutionary level above human, through vessels you may know as Jesus, Elijah, Moses, Enoch, and Adam. Though on this visit, he was not sent to serve alone.
You might wonder why this chair is as prominent as it is in the picture beside me, and this chair represents my partner. So this is T's chair, and this is, I hope that T occupies this chair many times that I might not be able, even though I might not be able to see T. But still I'm uncomfortable if I am the center of attention without a reminder to me and to my students that my partner is with me, beside me, and since T is in the next level and no longer occupying a human vehicle, then sometimes when I ask T questions, I may not get an immediate answer, and I might get an answer a little later. I may get an answer days later or months later, depending upon the question. Sometimes I may not get an answer at all if the answer was inappropriate.
The T that Applewhite refers to is a woman named Bonnie Nichols. She co-founded Heaven's Gate with Applewhite in the 70s, though it wasn't called Heaven's Gate at the time, and there were some rather notable differences to their prophecies of a coming ascension to the next level as well. When they were actively touring the nation recruiting people into their group, there was no talk of an eventual need to kill your physical body in order to make the trip. Rather, T and Do promised that a spacecraft would come down to Earth, very much visible to those that did not adhere to the teachings of Heaven's Gate, and transport those who had been spiritually awake enough to see the truth up to the next level where they belong. So unlike the small stepping recruitment strategy we've covered of not putting the crazy stuff up front, Heaven's Gate took more of a niche approach, focusing on those who had a, let's just say, particularly open mind. And the shift from the externally verifiable spaceship to the phenobarbital as a means of transportation to the next level was not, as far as we can observe, part of a sinister long con either. From their words and actions over the years, it appears that T and Do were indeed true believers. But their theology ran into a problem when Bonnie Nettles fell victim to cancer, dying of the disease in 1985. One of their leaders' bodies dying in such a typical human manner put a bit of a dampener on the notion of a physical spacecraft taking the whole group together. But the meat of Tiendo's teachings was still on point as far as Heaven's Gate was. He had simply fulfilled all purpose which he could have on Earth and was recalled to the next level, no longer needing her physical body. It was essentially discarded via the cancer. Do, on the other hand, still had stuff to do. The death of Bonnie Nettles, therefore, is seen by many as being one of the leading catalysts for what we're watching right now. With the approach of Hale Bob, the Heaven's Gate away team had been given the sign that their physical bodies too must perish as part of their key to unlocking Heaven's Gate.
Suicide is separating from the kingdom of God when the kingdom of God has reached out and offered life to you. That is suicide. So to us, it would be suicide to not leave of the life, vegetation, everything of the planet is about to be recycled because it needs to be refurbished. It'll be a miracle if this tape ever is permitted to become knowledge that could spread across the world to even give individuals a chance to know what we have to say about what you might have been offered, or what you might even still be offered. If this connects with you, I want you to see the class that's sitting in front of me. And I'm very proud to be students of the kingdom of heaven, of the kingdom of God, of the evolutionary level above you. They're about to leave, and they're excited about leaving. Now, if you would hold your patch, maybe we can zoom in on the patch that. Great. See, turn it the other way a little bit. No, the opposite way a little bit. There you go. Now we don't have, there we go. See, it says Heaven's Gate Away Team. And that's exactly what that means to us. We've been away and now we're going back. Okay, go back to Jim Odie, if you would. Okay, thanks Jim Odie. Now let's go to Dave Odie. Hi Dave Odie. Look at the camera. You look great. Okay, now let's go to Lodi.
In case you were wondering, the members of Heaven's Gate do not just all coincidentally have uncommon names ending in Odie. All were assigned new names beginning with 2 to 3 letters that were unique to each member and ending with ODY. Sociologists cite this as a mechanism of brainwashing, cementing a member's psychological isolation from the rest of society by taking their given name and replacing it with a uniform identity that conforms with the cult. According to Heaven's Gate, Odie is just a suffix for a child of the next level.
Okay, and then there's Tall Odie next to him. We call him Tall Odie because he's a little taller than Lagodi, who happens to be very, very tall. And we've had a lot of fun teasing him.
What you just heard was a slip-up that diverged enough from Heaven's Gate doctrine for Applewhite to feel the need to correct himself in a separate recording.
I realized when I was talking about the classmates and the camera was on them individually after I spoke to you last evening, that I caught myself a number of times realizing I had spoken of the vehicle that they were wearing as them, and I was very uncomfortable realizing I had done that, because that's something we work hard to try to break the habit of, because we know that the body is not us. We took the body when the body was even mature, and now we're going to leave the body. But I remember when I spoke to you about Tall Odie, and I said, because he's so tall, or I think I might have said that instead of always remembering to say because his vehicle is so tall.
It's an illuminating mistake, because it isn't one that you would be prone to making if the nature of being Applewhite just described was literally true. Take the example of an actual vehicle, for instance. Say you saw Marshall Applewhite driving a Hummer. You would say Marshall's car is big, never Marshall is big. And more importantly, you would not need to make a conscious effort to say the right thing. Describing people as being separate from their vehicles comes naturally to you, because it's just reality. But incongruities like this don't seem to unsettle members of Heaven's Gate one iota. And this is the most significant factor that makes this cult such a fascinating case study. With many cults, you can see cracks showing in some adherents now and again. The members of Heaven's Gate, all indoctrinated in adulthood, show no signs of any such misgivings in their exit interviews. Every person that you're about to see here is fully aware that they'll be taking the lethal cocktail in a matter of days.
I've heard of the news media story in 75 about a bunch of people disappearing from Walport, Oregon. Well, they're still here. They're not for long.
I'm here, and I'm very, very happy here. I don't know what I did to deserve to be here, and I'm embarrassed that I can't express without getting emotional how good I feel about what I'm doing and how good I feel about being here.
I just want to say how thankful I am to Doe and T for helping me and taking me under their wing and showing me the ways of the next level, and all my classmates have been so great to me and all the problems I've caused.
This particular vehicle that I'm using, I know it had a deposit in it because from the time it was just a little kid, I looked around and observed what was seeing around it, and it felt like something was missing. There was nothing significant to what it saw the adults doing and the lives it saw going on around it. In those sales, they had a formula of how to get out of the human kingdom to a level above human. And I said to myself, that's what I want. That's what I've been looking for. I don't care if this is, maybe they're crazy for all I know, but I don't have any choice but to go for it because I've been on this planet for 31 years and there's nothing.
Thank you.
The moment I saw them,
event will be rebroadcast
I just,
Channel 4.
At first, I think the vehicle was frightened, but the mind that was coming into this vehicle recognized him, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, I knew what I had to do.
This vehicle knew it didn't fit in this world, but after I met my older members, saw them through these eyes, heard them through these ears, I knew where I belonged. I recognized them. The little people I had been looking for had come to take me home.
I'm one who left the class after having been in it for 6 years and returned into the world. It's up to each individual to prove to the next level that the next level is all that they want and that there's nothing in the human kingdom to cope with it. Those who might have recognized the next level but turned away from it for one reason or another, anywhere, whether in a meeting or having been with us, they may need to plead repeatedly, like I did over a long period of time, to show that they're sincere. But if you knock on the door and continue asking to serve the next level, they won't forsake you.
I don't know if you remember Doe talking about that some students had proven to him that they desired to have their vehicles moving. And I'm one of those students that did that. And I can't tell you how free that has made me feel. In all reality, I can't see that this next step that I'm prepared to take and looking forward to taking is anything more than a clinical operation. I can't see any other way but to fully expect that laying down this vehicle is going to be anything but great for me.
I did want to recommend on our website, we have a picture of what we feel like a member of the next level might look like. We don't know if it's entirely accurate, but we feel like because of the way Doe helped bring that picture about and that we feel so good about it, that it must be very close. We're looking forward to being in the next level.
Now you're going to find this old crummy vehicle in a bunk someplace
that I'll be going. I'll probably be watching when you check it out and observe your responses and your reaction when you look at these vehicles. And they're all nothing but containers that we've used and borrowed for the short amount of time.
As a quote monastery, we had a little business that we called Higher Source, from which we earned our income so we could consume while we were on this planet. And there have been more than one client who has suspected that there was a little something unusual about us. And one particular individual came up to us one day and said something like, "I'm halfway expecting one of these days that you're going to come to the door and say something like, 'The big guy upstairs sent us, to work with you.'" To that individual, I'd like to say at this time that God did have a message for you, but it was a bit premature when you asked. And we'd like to let you know that He's had an eye on you. And one last thing we'd like to say is, there's an eye to beam up. Thank you.
As you watch the serene demeanour of the Heaven's Gate members, all speaking without a hint of discernible fear that they could be wrong and might really just die in a day or two, there's one simple question that may keep coming to the forefront of your mind. How? How could anyone, let alone dozens of people, be exposed to a theology as nakedly goofy as that of Heaven's Gate, and not just believe it, but find themselves in a place of such profound conviction that they're willing to do a thing like this? Before we take our best shot at partially explaining that, we have to acknowledge it's a genuinely tricky task. When you look at the available footage of Applewhite and Nettles' recruitment meetings, they don't even present as particularly charismatic, though the weird alien-like manner they present, coupled with the insatiable fascination some have with UFOs, could create some fertile ground for a buy-in. Not all Heaven's Gate members did have a pre-existing obsession with aliens and the like. Furthermore, multiple members have reported converting instantaneously. Rather than being gradually persuaded, they experienced a sort of revelation that felt like it had been sent to them from the heavens.
I had decided to join after that meeting, right? And so I went around to people that were my friends. I told them that I felt like I sat in front of the equivalent of Jesus. It was like I had this program in my mind, that this was going to happen, and that's what actually T&O explained to us later. It ended up being that 34 individuals out of that meeting of approximately 200 or so. I ended up joining with T&O because of that meeting. It's like a light switch going on, but there wasn't any sound or anything with it, or I didn't see any flashes in the in the sky or visions or anything. It was just, I felt like my life, I did feel like my life flashed in front of my eyes as leading me to this moment to where I had that choice, and that I had no question about that this was the right thing for me to do.
Assuming such descriptions are not just backwards rationalizations of a moment that in actuality felt more mundane at the time, there does not exist a simple and demonstrable explanation for how Applewhite and Nettles were able to induce these sorts of experiences in people.